Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and looked out at the strange alien vessel floating in space. The alien ship was beautiful and scary at the same time. Its surface looked like liquid metal that moved and changed colors. Jake had never seen anything like it in his 20 years of space travel. The USS Horizon was a good ship, but it looked old and simple next to the alien vessel. Jake's ship was built for work, not for beauty. It had thick metal walls, basic computers, and systems that never failed. The alien ship looked like it was made from dreams and advanced science. "Sir, the aliens are sending us another message," said Lisa Grant from her communication station. She was young but smart, and she had been talking to the aliens for 3 hours now. "They want to bring some of their broken equipment onto our ship. They say they need our help to fix it." Jake nodded slowly. The aliens called themselves the Kethvar. They were tall and thin with blue-silver skin that seemed to glow in the light. Their eyes were large and dark like deep pools of water. When they spoke, their voices sounded like music, even through the translation machines. The leader of the aliens was named Commander Zethkon. He seemed polite, but Jake could tell that he thought humans were not very smart. The way Zethkon looked at their ship and equipment made it clear that he believed his people were much more advanced than humans. "Tell them they can bring their equipment on board," Jake said to Lisa. "But remind them that our repair tools are basic. We don't have the fancy equipment they are used to." Tony Rodriguez, the ship's engineer, looked up from his control panel. He was a good man who could fix anything with simple tools and hard work. "Captain, their equipment is way beyond anything I understand. It uses power sources I have never seen before. I don't know if I can help them." "Do your best, Tony," Jake replied. "Maybe we can learn something from each other." Before Lisa could send the message, all the lights on the bridge started to flicker. The computer screens went crazy with warning messages. Tony's face went white as he looked at his instruments. "Captain, we have a big problem," Tony said, his voice tight with worry. "The star near us is acting strange. Solar activity is going through the roof. I have never seen readings like this." Jake felt his stomach drop. Solar flares were dangerous for any ship, but they were especially dangerous when you were close to an unknown star. "How bad is it?" he asked. "Bad," Tony said. "Really bad. The electromagnetic readings are off the charts. If this gets worse, it could fry every electronic system on both ships." As if the universe was listening to Tony's words, the view screen suddenly exploded with bright orange and yellow light. A massive solar flare erupted from the surface of the nearby star. It was beautiful and terrifying, like watching a dragon breathe fire across space. The wave of electromagnetic energy hit both ships at the same time. The USS Horizon shook like a leaf in a storm. Every alarm on the ship started screaming at once. The lights went out, came back on, and went out again. Sparks flew from control panels as circuits overloaded. "All hands, hold on tight," Jake shouted, over the noise of failing systems and emergency alarms. Through the chaos on the bridge, Jake could see the alien ship spinning out of control. The beautiful liquid metal surface was flickering and changing colors rapidly. Parts of the ship that had been glowing were now dark. The advanced alien technology was failing just like the human systems. Amy Peterson, the ship's navigator, was fighting with her controls. She was one of the best navigators in the fleet, but her equipment was failing fast. "Captain, we are in trouble. Both ships are caught in the gravity of the planet below us. We are going to crash." Jake looked at the planet on the view screen. It was not a good place to crash. The surveys had marked it as extremely dangerous for human life. The atmosphere was barely breathable. The weather was violent and unpredictable. There were large predators that could kill a human easily. For the aliens, who seemed to depend on their advanced technology for everything, it would be even worse. "Lisa, try to contact the alien ship," Jake ordered. "See if they can help us get out of this." Lisa worked frantically at her communication station, but she shook her head. "No response, Captain. I think their systems are down completely." The ship shook again, harder this time. Through the view screen, Jake could see the planet getting bigger and bigger. The surface looked rough and unwelcoming. There were massive storms swirling across continents, mountain ranges that looked like broken teeth. forests that seemed too dark and thick. "Tony, can you get us any power?" Jake asked. "I'm trying, Captain, but the electromagnetic pulse fried most of our main systems. I've got emergency power only, not enough to break free from the planet's gravity." Danny Carter, the ship's survival expert, spoke up from the back of the bridge. He was quiet most of the time, but when he talked, people listened. "Captain, we need to prepare for a crash landing. Both ships are going down, and that planet down there doesn't look friendly." Danny was right, and Jake knew it. He had hoped they could find a way to escape, but hope was not going to save them now. "All crew to crash positions," he announced over the ship's communication system. "Prepare for emergency landing. This is not a drill." The crew moved quickly to their emergency stations. They had trained for this situation many times, but nobody expected it to happen during a first contact mission with aliens. Jake strapped himself into his captain's chair and watched the planet grow larger on the view screen. The alien ship was falling faster than the USS Horizon. Its sleek design was not built for atmospheric entry. Jake could see pieces breaking off as it hit the upper atmosphere. The beautiful vessel was being torn apart by forces it was never designed to handle. 30 seconds to atmosphere," Amy called out. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the fear underneath. "Everyone hold tight," Jake said. "Danny, as soon as we hit ground, I want you to assess our survival gear. We might be down there for a while." "Already on it, Captain," Danny replied. "We have standard military survival kits for each crew member. Basic stuff, but it's all proven. Equipment: rope, knives, fire starters, emergency blankets, water purification tablets, some food. Nothing fancy, but it should keep us alive if we use it right." The ship hit the atmosphere with a violent shudder. The hull started to heat up as they fell through the thick air. Jake could smell something burning. The main view screen went dark, but the smaller emergency screen still showed their rapid descent toward the rocky surface below. "Brace for impact," Amy shouted. The USS Horizon hit the ground hard. The sound was like thunder and breaking glass at the same time. Jake felt his teeth rattle as the ship bounced and skidded across the rocky surface. Metal screamed against stone. Something exploded in the lower decks. Then suddenly everything was quiet. Jake slowly unbuckled his safety harness and looked around the bridge. Most of his crew were moving and conscious. Lisa had a cut on her forehead, but she was already checking her equipment. Tony was under his control panel, probably trying to see what systems still worked. Amy was helping Danny to his feet. "Sound off," Jake called. "Everyone report." One by one, his crew reported in. 12 people had survived the crash. Some had cuts and bruises, but no one was seriously hurt. They were lucky to be alive. "Captain," Danny said, looking out through the broken view screen, "we have company." In the distance, about a kilometer away, the alien ship had also crashed. It was broken into several pieces, scattered across a wide area. But Jake could see movement near the wreckage. Some of the aliens had survived too. "What do we do now, Captain?" Lisa asked. Jake looked at his crew, then at the alien wreckage, then at the hostile world outside their damaged ship. "Now we survive," he said simply. "And we help our new alien friends survive too if we can." The morning sun on the alien planet was harsh and unforgiving. Jake Morrison stood outside the wreckage of his ship and looked around at their new home. The USS Horizon had carved a deep cut through the rocky ground before smashing into a tall cliff. The ship was broken, but it had protected his crew during the crash. The air was thin and hard to breathe. It smelled strange, like metal and something sweet that made Jake's nose wrinkle. The sky was an odd color, more purple than blue, and there were 2 moons visible even in the daylight. Everything about this place felt wrong and dangerous. Danny Carter was already moving around the crash site, checking their supplies and looking for anything useful. He was the kind of man who never panicked, never complained, and always knew what to do when things went bad. Jake was glad to have him on the crew. "Captain, we need to talk," Danny said, walking over with a small bag in his hands. "I've checked our supplies. We have basic survival gear for each crew member, but that's it. No heavy equipment, no powered tools, no fancy gadgets." Jake nodded. "What exactly do we have?" Danny opened the bag and started pulling out items. "Military survival kits. Each person gets rope, a good knife, fire starters, an emergency blanket, water purification tablets, and some emergency food. We also have a basic first aid kit and some tools from the ship's emergency supplies. That's it? Asked Lisa Grant, who had been listening to their conversation. That's it, Danny confirmed. But it's all good stuff. Military-grade equipment that's designed to work in bad situations. Simple, reliable, and tested by thousands of soldiers over the years. Tony Rodriguez crawled out from under a piece of wreckage, his face covered in grease and dirt. Captain, I've got some good news and some bad news. The bad news is that our main power systems are completely dead. The electromagnetic pulse fried everything electronic. The good news is that I was able to save some basic tools and materials before the batteries died completely. Jake looked at his crew. 12 people total, including himself. Lisa Grant was young but smart and could handle communications. Tony Rodriguez could fix anything with his hands. Danny Carter knew more about survival than anyone Jake had ever met. Amy Peterson was an excellent navigator who could read the stars and find direction anywhere. Kelly Wright was their medic, trained to handle injuries with limited supplies. The others were good people too. Carl Davis was strong and willing to work hard. Maria Santos spoke several languages and was good at solving problems. Ben Thompson was quiet but reliable. Susan Lee was small but tough. Jim Parker was older but experienced. Kate Bell was new to space travel but learned quickly. All right, everyone, Jake said to his assembled crew. We're stuck here until rescue comes. That could be days, weeks, or longer. We need to work together and use what we have to stay alive. What about the aliens? Asked Kelly Wright, pointing toward the distant alien crash site. Should we try to help them? Jake looked across the rocky landscape toward the alien wreckage. He could see movement over there, but it was hard to tell what was happening. The aliens had seemed friendly during their brief contact, but Jake didn't know if that would continue now that they were all in a survival situation. Let's get our own situation stable first, Jake decided. Then we'll see what we can do for them. The crew spent the morning gathering supplies and setting up a basic camp near their ship. Danny took charge of organizing their survival efforts. He was good at it, breaking down complex tasks into simple steps that everyone could understand. First priority is shelter, Danny explained. The weather on this planet looks unpredictable. We need protection from storms, temperature changes, and anything else this place might throw at us. What about water? Asked Maria Santos. Second priority, Danny replied. I've already found a small stream about 200 meters from here. The water looks clean, but we'll purify it anyway. Can't be too careful on an alien world. The crew worked together to build a basic shelter using pieces of metal from the ship, rope from their survival kits, and simple tools. It wasn't pretty, but Danny knew what he was doing. He showed them how to lash pieces together with rope, how to make the structure stable, and how to create a roof that would keep out rain. While the humans worked, they could see the aliens in the distance doing something very different. The alien crash site was busy with activity, but it looked chaotic. There were flashing lights and strange sounds coming from their area. Around midday, Commander Zethkon appeared at the human camp. The alien leader looked different than he had on the ship. His beautiful blue-silver skin seemed dull, and he moved, carefully, as if he was having trouble with the planet's gravity or atmosphere. Captain Morrison, Zethkon said through his translation device, which was crackling with static. I hope your people are well after the crash. We're managing, Jake replied politely. What about your crew? We have lost 2 of our people, Zethkon said sadly. The others are alive but struggling. This planet is very hostile to our biology. The atmosphere is difficult for us to breathe, and the gravity is stronger than what we are used to. Jake felt sorry for the aliens. Is there anything we can do to help? Zethkon looked around at the human camp. Jake could see the alien leader studying their simple shelter, their basic tools, and their primitive equipment. The look on Zethkon's face was hard to read, but Jake thought he saw something like pity. Thank you for the offer, Zethkon said, but I think we will manage with our own resources. We have portable atmosphere processors, advanced shelter generators, and sophisticated life support systems. Once we repair the electromagnetic damage from the solar flare, we should be quite comfortable. The alien commander paused and looked at the humans again. I am concerned about your people, Captain. Your equipment appears to be very basic. These simple tools cannot sustain life in such a harsh environment for very long. Perhaps when our systems are operational, we could provide you with better shelter and life support. Danny Carter was nearby, working on their water collection system. Jake saw him look up and raise an eyebrow at the alien's words, but Danny didn't say anything. He just went back to his work. We appreciate the concern, Jake said diplomatically, but we'll manage with what we have. If you need any help with repairs or anything else, just let us know. Zethkon nodded graciously. You are very kind, but I do not think your primitive tools would be compatible with our technology. We will handle our own repairs. After the alien commander left, Lisa Grant walked over to Jake. Did he just call our equipment primitive? She asked. He did, Jake replied. And from his point of view, I guess it is. Their technology is definitely more advanced than ours. Maybe, said Danny Carter, who had finished working on the water system. But advanced doesn't always mean better. Sometimes the simple way is the right way. That afternoon, the differences between the two camps became even more obvious. The humans continued building their shelter and organizing their supplies. They worked efficiently, using their basic tools to solve problems as they came up. When something broke, they fixed it with rope and metal. When they needed water, they collected it and purified it with tablets. The aliens, on the other hand, seemed to be struggling with their repairs. There were frequent flashes of light from their camp, followed by sounds that might have been alien cursing. Several times, the humans saw aliens running around their crash site, as if something had gone wrong. Their technology is giving them trouble, observed Amy Peterson, who had been watching the alien camp through a piece of broken glass from their ship. Looks like that electromagnetic pulse did more damage than they thought. Technology can be fragile, Danny said. The more complex something is, the more ways it can break. Our simple gear might not look like much, but it works. As evening approached, the humans had a functional camp. Their shelter was solid and weatherproof. Their water collection system was working. They had organized their food supplies and set up a basic cooking area. Most importantly, they had done it all with rope, knives, and simple tools. The alien camp was still chaotic. Strange lights continued to flash on and off. The sounds of their repair work echoed across the landscape. Several times, the humans saw aliens in environmental suits moving around outside their main shelter, but the suits looked bulky and awkward. They're having a hard time, Kelly Wright observed. Maybe we should offer to help again. Let's give them space for now, Jake decided. If they need help, they'll ask for it. That night, as the human crew sat around a simple fire made with their basic fire starters, they could see the alien camp in the distance. It looked like a small city of lights and technology, but even from far away, they could tell something was wrong. The lights flickered constantly, and there were no aliens moving around outside. I wonder how long their power will last, Tony Rodriguez said, warming his hands over the fire. Not long if they keep having problems, Danny replied. Complex systems use a lot of energy, especially when they're not working right. Jake looked at his crew sitting around the fire. They were tired and dirty, but they were alive and working. Together. Their simple equipment was keeping them warm, fed, and protected. It might not look like much compared to alien technology, but it was doing the job. 3 days after the crash, the difference between the two camps was like night and day. Jake Morrison stood at the edge of his crew's settlement and felt proud of what they had accomplished with so little. The human camp had grown into something that looked almost comfortable. Danny Carter had led the building efforts, and his knowledge of survival techniques was showing results. Their shelter was now large enough for everyone, with separate areas for sleeping, eating, and storing supplies. The walls were made from pieces of their crashed ship, held together with rope and simple tools. Look at this, Danny said to Jake, pointing to the roof of their shelter. We used emergency blankets as waterproofing, stretched over a frame made from ship parts. It's not pretty, but it'll keep us dry in any storm. The shelter was smart in ways that weren't obvious at first glance. Danny had positioned it so the morning sun would warm it up, but the afternoon heat wouldn't make it too hot. The entrance faced away from the direction most storms came from. There were small openings near the top to let hot air out, and drainage, channels around the edges to carry away rainwater. Tony Rodriguez had surprised everyone by creating a water system that worked better than expected. "The trick is gravity," he explained to Lisa Grant as they watched clean water flow through a series of channels he had built. "We collect rainwater and morning dew using emergency blankets stretched between posts. The water flows down into collection, pools, then through our purification system." The purification system was simple but effective. Tony had used cloth from their emergency supplies to make filters, and they cleaned the water with purification tablets from their survival kits. The result was clean, safe drinking water that tasted better than what they had on the ship. Kelly Wright had set up a medical area, using her basic first aid supplies. But she had also started exploring the local plant life, carefully testing which ones might be useful. "This one looks like something we have on Earth," she said, showing Jake a small plant with thick leaves. "I think it might help with cuts and bruises." She had been very careful about testing the plants. First, she would rub a tiny amount on her skin to see if it caused any reaction. If that was safe, she would taste a very small amount. Only after several tests would she consider using it for medicine. The humans had also started exploring the area around their crash site. Carl Davis and Ben Thompson had found a cave system that could provide shelter if their main camp was damaged. Maria Santos had discovered a grove of trees that produced something that looked like fruit, though they were still testing it carefully to make sure it was safe to eat. Amy Peterson had used her navigation skills to map the local area. She had climbed to the top of a nearby hill and marked the locations of water sources, potential dangers, and useful resources. "We're in a good spot," she reported to Jake. "There's a river about 3 kilometers north and what looks like a forest full of game animals to the south." The most impressive thing about the human camp was how well organized it was. Everything had a place, and everyone had a job. They had work schedules, guard duties, and daily routines that kept them busy and focused. Their simple equipment was being used in ways that were clever and practical. The alien camp, by contrast, looked like it was falling apart. From the human settlement, they could see the Kethvar struggling with their advanced technology. The aliens had managed to create a small bubble of artificial atmosphere around their main shelter, but it was clearly having problems. The lights flickered constantly, and sometimes the whole system would shut down for hours at a time. "They're using too much power," Tony observed, watching the alien camp through a piece of broken glass. "Those atmospheric processors are probably designed for perfect conditions, not for emergency repairs after an electromagnetic pulse." When the aliens did come outside their shelter, they wore full environmental suits that looked heavy and awkward. The suits were clearly advanced technology, but they seemed to limit what the aliens could do. They moved slowly, couldn't bend over easily, and had trouble with simple tasks like picking things up. "Those suits are like wearing a small spaceship," Danny said. "Probably very safe, but not practical for real survival work." The human crew had started to feel sorry for the aliens. Commander Zethkon and his people were clearly suffering, even with all their advanced technology. The question was whether the proud alien commander would accept help from humans using primitive equipment. The answer came on the 4th day when Sub-Commander Yethka approached the human camp. She was Zethkon's second-in-command, and she seemed more curious about human methods than her commander was. "Captain Morrison," Yethka said through her translator, "I hope you will forgive the intrusion. I wanted to observe your survival techniques." Jake welcomed her into the camp. "Of course, we're happy to share what we know." Yethka spent several hours watching the humans work. She was particularly interested in how they used rope for so many different purposes. Danny showed her how they tied knots for different jobs, some for holding weight, others for adjusting tension, and still others for quick release in emergencies. "This is fascinating," Yethka said, watching Danny demonstrate a complex knot. "You achieve structural integrity using only fibrous materials and mechanical advantage. No power source required, no computer control, no maintenance protocols." "That's the beauty of it," Danny replied. "Rope is rope, It works the same way today as it did 1,000 years ago. It doesn't break down, it doesn't need updates, and it doesn't care about electromagnetic pulses. Lisa Grant showed Yethka their communication system. It was just mirror signals and simple codes, but it allowed them to send messages across long distances without using any power. We use this to contact our scouting teams when they're exploring, Lisa explained. Your people go out to explore? Yethka asked, surprised. In this hostile environment? Sure, said Carl Davis, who had just returned from checking their trap lines. We need to know what's around us. Food sources, water sources, potential dangers. You can't survive if you don't understand your environment. Yethka looked confused. But how do you protect yourselves? Your equipment is so basic. Carl held up his survival knife and a simple spear he had made from ship parts and rope. These work just fine. Sometimes simple is better than complicated. That afternoon, Yethka asked if she could try some of the human techniques. Danny taught her how to tie basic knots, and she was surprisingly good at it. Her long, delicate fingers were perfect for rope work. This is quite efficient, she said, practicing. A knot that could hold heavy weight. No power consumption, no system failures, no maintenance requirements. It simply functions. Tony Rodriguez showed her their water collection system, and Yethka was amazed. You achieve 98.7% contamination removal using only chemical tablets and basic filtration. Our portable purifiers require constant maintenance and consume significant power. Plus, if something breaks, we can fix it with our hands, Tony added. No need for replacement parts or repair manuals. Kelly Wright demonstrated some of her medical techniques, showing how she could treat injuries using basic supplies and knowledge. The key is understanding what you're trying to accomplish, Kelly explained. Fancy equipment is nice, but it's not always necessary. As the day went on, Yethka became more and more interested in human survival methods. She asked dozens of questions about everything from firemaking to food preservation. She seemed genuinely impressed by how much the humans could accomplish with so little. Your methods are quite sophisticated, she finally admitted. I confess that I initially viewed your techniques as primitive, but there is a logic to them that our technology lacks. What do you mean? Jake asked. Our systems are designed for perfect conditions, Yethka explained. When everything works correctly, they are far superior to your methods. But when something goes wrong, as it has here, they become liabilities rather than assets. She looked around the human camp, taking in the simple but effective shelters, the reliable water system, and the organized layout. Your techniques are robust. They work regardless of external conditions. They require no infrastructure, no power, no maintenance. In a true survival situation, this may be more valuable than any advanced technology. That evening, Yethka returned to the alien camp, but she came back the next morning with more questions. She wanted to learn how to make fire without electric igniters, how to purify water without powered filters, and how to build shelter without environmental control systems. Is Commander Zethkon okay with you learning our methods? Jake asked. Yethka hesitated. The commander believes that our technology will be repaired soon. He maintains that our advanced systems are superior to your primitive techniques. But I am beginning to have doubts. She looked toward the alien camp where the lights were flickering again. Our power systems are failing more frequently. Our atmospheric processors are becoming less efficient. Our environmental suits are showing signs of wear. Meanwhile, your camp grows stronger every day. Danny Carter overheard the conversation and walked over. Technology is just a tool, he said. The real skill is knowing how to adapt when your tools don't work the way you expected. But how do you know which techniques to use? Yethka asked. How do you decide what will work and what will not? The fifth day started with a discovery that made everyone's blood run cold. Danny Carter was doing his morning check around the camp when he found them. Massive claw marks gouged deep into the rock face near their shelter. Captain, you need to see this, Danny called out quietly, not wanting to alarm the others until Jake could assess the situation. Jake hurried over and felt his stomach drop when he saw the marks. Each claw mark was as long as his forearm and cut deep into solid rock. Whatever had made them was big, powerful, and had been very close to their camp during the night. What kind of animal could do this? Jake asked, running his fingers along the deep scratches. Danny was already examining tracks in the soft ground nearby. Something cat-like, but much bigger than any Earth predator. Look at these prints. They're the size of dinner plates. And there's something else. He pointed to a series of tracks that led around their camp in a wide circle. These animals are smart. They've been watching us, studying our patterns. And there's more than one of them. As if summoned by their conversation, a long, haunting howl echoed across the landscape. The sound was unlike anything Jake had ever heard, part roar, part scream, and completely terrifying. It was answered by 2 more calls from different directions. They're communicating, Danny said grimly. Pack hunters, and they know we're here. The news spread quickly through the human camp, but the crew took it calmly. They had trained for dangerous situations, and they trusted Danny's expertise. Within an hour, they had modified their defenses and established new safety protocols, but the aliens were facing an even bigger crisis. Around midday, Commander Zethkon appeared at the human camp. The proud alien leader looked terrible. His blue-silver skin was dull and gray, and he moved like every step was painful. Behind him, Sub-Commander Yethka supported another alien who could barely walk. Captain Morrison, Zethkon said, his translator, crackling with static worse than ever. I must request your assistance. Our situation has become critical. Jake could see the desperation in the alien commander's large dark eyes. What's wrong? Our atmospheric processors are failing, Zethkon admitted, the words clearly difficult for him to say. The electromagnetic damage was worse than we initially calculated. Our life support bubble is shrinking, and several of my crew are showing signs of atmospheric poisoning. He looked around at the human camp, taking in their sturdy shelters and organized systems. We have also detected the large predators you discovered. Our mobility suits are too damaged to provide adequate protection against such creatures. How many of your people are left? Kelly Wright asked, her medical training taking over. 7, Yethka answered when Zethkon hesitated. 2 are severely ill from breathing the planet's atmosphere. The others are weak but functional. Jake looked at his crew. They were dirty and tired, but they were healthy and adapting well to the harsh environment. Their simple equipment was keeping them alive while the aliens' advanced technology was killing them. We can help, Jake said simply. But you'll need to do things our way. No more relying on technology that doesn't work. Zethkon's pride was clearly warring with his desperation. Your methods are so primitive, he said quietly. How can rope and metal tools protect us from atmospheric contamination and predator attacks? The same way they've been protecting us, Danny Carter said, stepping forward. By being simple, reliable, and adaptable. Your fancy suits and processors are impressive when they work, but they're useless when they break down. It took most of the day to integrate the alien survivors into the human camp. The Kethavar had spent centuries depending on advanced technology for everything, and the idea of using simple tools was completely foreign to them. But necessity was a powerful teacher. Sub-Commander Yethka, who had already been learning human techniques, helped translate more than just language. She explained human concepts to her fellow aliens and helped them understand why simple methods worked. This rope system, she explained to Nethavor, the alien scientist, as they worked together to expand the shelter. It achieves structural stability through distributed load-bearing and mechanical advantage. No power requirements, no system failures, no maintenance protocols. Nethavor was amazed as he learned to tie knots and lash pieces together. The tensile strength is remarkable, he said, testing a joint they had just completed. And if one connection fails, the load is automatically redistributed to adjacent connections. Our modular systems lack this adaptive redundancy. The aliens were quick learners, but they struggled with concepts that were second nature to the eye. Humans. They had trouble understanding how to read weather patterns, how to find water sources, and how to move quietly through the forest. Their whole culture was built around technology solving these problems for them. Kelly Wright worked with the 2 sick aliens, using her basic medical supplies and knowledge of field medicine. Their symptoms are consistent with atmospheric poisoning, she reported to Jake. But I think I can help them adapt. Their biology isn't that different from human biology. She used simple techniques, controlled breathing exercises, gradual exposure to the planet's atmosphere, and basic medicines from their first aid kits. It was primitive compared to alien medical technology, but it worked. Tony Rodriguez showed the aliens his water purification system, and they were fascinated by its simplicity and effectiveness. You achieve molecular-level filtration using only mechanical and chemical processes, said Kethlar, an alien engineer. Our quantum purifiers are far more complex, but apparently far less reliable in field conditions. Complex isn't always better, Tony replied with a grin. Sometimes the best solution is the one that keeps working when everything else breaks down. The real test came that night when the predators finally decided to attack. Danny had been expecting it. The creatures had been watching the camps for days, and the addition of the aliens had probably convinced them that the prey was vulnerable. Large pack hunters were patient, but they wouldn't wait forever. The first sign of trouble was the absolute silence. All the background sounds of the alien forest, strange bird calls, insect noises, the rustle of vegetation in the wind, stopped. Completely. Contact, Danny whispered into his communication device. Multiple hostiles, all directions. The human crew moved into defensive positions with practiced efficiency. But now they had 7 aliens to protect, most of whom had never faced a physical threat without technology to help them. Stay calm, Jake told the aliens. Follow our lead and do exactly what we tell you. The predators were magnificent and terrifying. In the dim light of the planet's moons, Jake could see creatures that looked like a cross between a tiger and a bear, but twice the size of either. Their eyes glowed in the darkness, and their movements were silent despite their massive size. Fire, barriers, Danny called out, and Tony Rodriguez ignited their pre-prepared defenses. The humans had spent days setting up a defensive system using the most basic materials imaginable. Chemical fire starters and combustible materials salvaged from the ship created a ring of flames around the camp. Simple trip lines made from rope were hidden in the tall grass. Sharpened stakes were positioned at key choke points. The predators recoiled from the sudden light and heat, but they were clearly intelligent. Jake could see them circling, testing the defenses, looking for weaknesses. Incredible, whispered Yethka, who was crouched next to Lisa Grant. You've created a defensive perimeter using only fire and primitive materials. Fire's the oldest weapon humans have, Lisa replied. It works just as well now as it did 1,000,000 years ago. The largest predator, clearly the pack leader, made the first real attack. It was a feint, charging directly at what appeared to be the weakest part of their perimeter, while 2 other creatures attacked from the opposite side. But Danny had anticipated this. His rope and stake system wasn't just random. It was a carefully designed trap. Hidden trip lines sent one attacker. Sprawling while sharpened stakes positioned at critical angles channeled the predators into killing zones. Now, Jake shouted. The human crew responded with weapons that any advanced civilization would have considered primitive. Sharpened spears made from ship parts, projectiles launched with simple mechanical force, and coordinated group tactics that required no technology at all. The aliens watched in amazement as the humans fought off creatures that could have easily destroyed a squad of Kethvar warriors equipped with advanced weapons. The key wasn't superior firepower. It was intelligence, adaptability, and perfect coordination. Yethka found herself holding a simple spear, standing back to back with Carl Davis as predators circled around them. How do you know what to do? She asked, her voice tight with fear. Training and instinct, Carl replied. We've been learning to fight and survive for thousands of years. It's in our nature. The battle lasted only minutes, but it felt like hours. When the predators finally retreated into the darkness, both humans and aliens were shaking with adrenaline. You defeated them, said Nethivor, staring at the humans, with something close to awe. Creatures that could have killed us all, and you defeated them using pointed sticks and controlled fire. Danny was already checking their defenses and treating minor injuries. They'll be back, he said matter-of-factly. But now they know we're dangerous. The morning after the Predator attack brought new challenges and new understanding. Jake Morrison watched as the combined human and alien camp worked together in ways he never would have imagined possible just a week ago. Sub-Commander Yethka was teaching rope knots to young Kethamore, one of the younger aliens who had adapted quickly to human methods. Her long fingers moved with growing confidence as she demonstrated the techniques Danny Carter had shown her. The key is understanding the stress patterns, she explained to her fellow alien. This knot distributes weight evenly, while this one allows for quick release under pressure. No computational requirements, no power consumption, just mechanical physics. Kethamore was fascinated. Our emergency protocols require 17 different systems to achieve similar results. This single piece of rope accomplishes the same goal, with no infrastructure requirements. Danny Carter smiled as he watched the aliens learning. Sometimes the old ways really are the best ways, he said to Jake. These folks are smart. Once they stopped thinking that complex meant better, they picked things up fast. The integration hadn't been easy. The aliens had spent so many generations depending on technology that basic survival skills felt alien to them. But desperation and necessity had proven to be excellent teachers. Nethavor, the alien scientist, had become particularly skilled at working with simple tools. He was helping Tony Rodriguez improve their water collection system using scientific principles and human engineering techniques. If we adjust the angle of these collection surfaces by 4.7 degrees, Nethavor suggested, we can increase water gathering efficiency by approximately 23%. I like the way you think, Tony replied. Let's try it. The alien scientific knowledge combined with human practical skills was producing results that surprised everyone. Their water system now collected more clean water than either group could have managed alone. Kelly Wright had made remarkable progress treating the sick aliens. Using basic medical supplies and simple techniques, she had helped them adapt to the planet's atmosphere. The key had been gradual exposure and breathing exercises, methods that any field medic would recognize. How do you know these techniques will work on our biology? Asked Vethelin, one of the aliens Kelly had been treating. I don't know for certain, Kelly admitted, but the basic principles of medicine are usually universal. Gradual adaptation, supporting the body's natural healing processes, maintaining proper hydration and nutrition. It's worked for humans for thousands of years. Without diagnostic equipment, without molecular analyzers? Vethelin seemed amazed. Doctors treated patients for centuries before we had fancy equipment, Kelly explained. Sometimes you have to rely on observation, experience, and common sense. The real change in the aliens' attitude came when they realized how much more capable they had become. Instead of being trapped inside environmental suits or artificial atmosphere bubbles, they could now move freely around the camp and surrounding area. I had forgotten what it felt like to be truly mobile, Yethka told Jake as they worked together to expand their defensive perimeter. Our technology made us safe, but it also made us prisoners. The camp itself had evolved into something that was both human and alien, but mostly practical. The shelter now housed 19 people comfortably, with areas for sleeping, eating, medical care, and equipment storage. The defensive systems had been improved with alien scientific knowledge and human engineering skills, but the most important change was in how the two groups saw each other. Commander Zethkon approached Jake on the 7th day with a request that would have seemed impossible a week earlier. Captain Morrison, the alien commander said, I would like to learn your fire-making techniques. Our portable energy sources are nearly depleted, and I believe your methods may be more reliable for long-term survival. Jake was happy to teach him. Watching the proud alien commander struggle with flint and steel was both amusing and touching. Zethkon's hands weren't designed for this kind of work, but he was determined to learn. The key is patience, Jake explained, as Zethkon tried for the 10th time to create a spark. Don't try to force it, let the materials do the work. When Zethkon finally succeeded in lighting a fire, his expression of joy and accomplishment was unmistakable. I have created combustion, using only mechanical energy and chemical reaction, he said with wonder. No power source, no ignition systems, no technological infrastructure. Congratulations, Jake said with a grin. You've just mastered technology that's been working for humans for over 1,000,000 years. The aliens had also begun contributing their own knowledge to the group's survival efforts. Their scientific understanding helped improve everything from food preservation to weather prediction. But they were doing it using human methods and simple tools. Our atmospheric analysis indicates a major storm system approaching, reported Keth Moore, who had been studying the sky using nothing more than observation and basic scientific principles. Wind patterns suggest it will arrive in approximately 18 hours. How can you tell without instruments? Asked Amy Peterson. Cloud formations, air pressure changes, animal behavior patterns, Keth Moore explained. The same methods your meteorologists used before electronic sensors. I simply applied scientific observation techniques to environmental data. The storm, when it came, was the worst weather any of them had experienced on the planet. Hurricane-force winds and driving rain hammered their camp for 12 straight hours. But their combined human-alien shelter held firm. Our old atmospheric bubble would never have survived this, Yethka shouted over the wind to Lisa Grant. Too much surface area, too many system vulnerabilities. Simple and low to the ground, Lisa shouted back. Works every time. When the storm passed, they found that several large trees had been blown down, and the landscape around them had changed dramatically. But their camp was intact, and everyone was safe and dry. More importantly, they had all survived the storm. Together, humans and aliens working as a single team using simple, reliable methods that didn't depend on power sources or complex systems. The rescue ships arrived 3 days later. Jake was working with Nethvor to improve their food storage system when Amy Peterson called out from her lookout post. Ships incoming. Multiple vessels, both human and alien design. The rescue fleet was impressive. 3 human ships and 2 Kethvar vessels, all equipped with the most advanced technology their respective civilizations could provide. Jake felt mixed emotions as he watched them land near the crash site. He was glad to be rescued, of course. But he was also proud of what they had accomplished with so little. The rescue teams were amazed by what they found. Captain Sarah Kim of the human rescue ship expected to find desperate survivors barely clinging to life. Instead, she found a thriving settlement where humans and aliens worked together using techniques that seemed to come from humanity's distant past. How did you survive with such basic equipment? Captain Kim asked Jake as they toured the camp. The equipment isn't basic, Jake corrected her. It's fundamental. Rope, knives, fire, simple tools. These things work anywhere, anytime, under any conditions. They don't break down, they don't need power, and they don't care about electromagnetic pulses. High Commander Vorthak of the Kethvar rescue fleet was even more surprised. He found his people not only alive but healthier and more capable than they had been before the crash. How is this possible? He asked Commander Zethkon. Our reports indicated that you were stranded on a hostile world with only primitive human technology. The humans taught us that primitive and effective are not the same thing, Zethkon replied. Their simple methods proved far more reliable than our advanced systems. He gestured toward the camp where humans and aliens continued working together, even with rescue ships standing by. We learned that the most sophisticated technology in the universe is a prepared mind and the will to survive. As they prepared to leave the planet, both groups were reluctant to abandon the camp they had built. Together, it represented something important, proof that intelligence and determination could overcome any obstacle, regardless of the tools available. Sub-Commander Yethka approached Danny Carter as the evacuation began. I want to thank you, she said. You taught us that survival is not about having the best equipment. It is about understanding basic principles and adapting them to whatever situation you face. You're welcome, Danny replied. But you taught us something too. You showed us that intelligence and scientific knowledge can make simple methods even better. We're stronger together than either of us was alone. The final moment came when Commander Zethkon formally thanked Captain Morrison for saving his people. You did more than preserve our lives, Zethkon said. You preserved our dignity and taught us the value of fundamental skills. When we return to our worlds, we will ensure that our people remember this lesson." "What lesson is that?" Jake asked. "That the most advanced technology is worthless without the knowledge and wisdom to adapt when it fails. That simple, reliable methods often work better than complex systems. And that true survival depends not on what tools you have, but on how well you understand the principles behind using any tool effectively."